Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be, She Controls the Sex. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Got an email here from a guy who's been married for about 10 years, and he's been in marriage counseling and therapy, which he says really was only about 10 to 20% of the solution to turn things around in his marriage. And once he found my book and started applying it, things have gotten a hell of a lot better. Because you can have a great therapist and a great marriage counselor can help you with communication, help you with your issues, your mommy and your daddy issues and all that wonderful stuff, good psychologist, what have you. But a good psychologist or a really good therapist who's really worth their weight in gold, if you will, knows and values the importance of having a good life coach that can help you, especially if you're a man, focus on what you need to be focused on as a man in order to make yourself happy, and also to make yourself more attracted to members of the opposite sex. And because I deal with a lot of guys, I have a lot of people who told me the years, men and women both, that stuff they've learned from me has helped them a lot more than just the therapy and the counseling alone, which it has its place, obviously, and it's incredibly valuable, and I highly recommend it. I coach a lot of therapists, counselors, and psychologists because by learning the self-help strategies that I teach, it helps them be more effective therapists and counselors. Because at the end of the day, if you're a great communicator, but you're not acting like a man in your relationship, you're going to struggle. You're going to have a hell of a lot of problems. And most women aren't going to know how to, they don't want to teach a guy how to be a man. They want you to know how to already do these kinds of things. So having a great life coach, especially, I'd say probably somewhere around 50% of the clients that I work with already have a good, either if they're struggling in their marriage or their relationship, they've already got a couples therapist, or they're going through marriage counseling, or they've got a good psychologist, or somebody that's helping them with, maybe they had a traumatic childhood. But life coaching and therapy, they go hand in hand together. And the people that I see doing really well, they have both. And really good psychologists, really good counselors, really good therapists, highly encourage people to go out and get themselves a good life coach. So I had a quote that I wrote, and then we're going to go through this guy's email and see things have gotten a lot better, but things are, just like the title says, she's basically controlling all of the sex and how much or how little they have it and when they have it. And he obviously wants it a lot more. So the quote says, women want to be heard and feel like they understood. When a man does this successfully, her legs open. When she does not feel heard and understood, the legs close. There is no on-off switch for women to make them ready to have sex like robots. Women know that when men really care for them, they will make the effort to plan a fun date, take care of the reservations, schedule things, arrange a babysitter for the kids, and handle all of the details. So all they have to do is show up, look hot, and be prepared to have a fun time while letting the men lead the date. The best and most simple plan for men to follow in order to make their women happy, feel heard and understood, and to make a successful seduction possible is to hang out, have fun, and hook up. The seduction takes place at the end of a fun date. Women tend to fall in love and get turned on through their ears, and men through their eyes. Take the time to make your lady feel special, beautiful, like she's worth your time and effort, and she will happily and enthusiastically fulfill your every wish in the bedroom. If you're struggling in your relationship and you're trying to seduce your girlfriend or your wife and she's not having it, your sensory acuity is off, and you're not taking her through the seduction process successfully. Seduction, being successful at it, you got to know pickup skills, you got to know dating skills, and you have to know relationship skills. And when a woman doesn't feel safe and comfortable, and she doesn't feel heard, and she doesn't feel understood, you ain't getting any. That's just the way it is. Coach Corey, I am the guy who said I would never send one of these emails. The guy who thinks all of this shit is 99% scams. I saw your videos on YouTube and was intrigued, and you weren't pushing your watchers to buy a bunch of stuff, which is awesome. That's why I give everything away for free. You can even read my book for free by subscribing to my newsletter on my website. because what I teach works. It's just the way it is. I teach truth. You could try it out for yourself. If you apply the things I teach, it will work for you. Then I got sick of you telling everyone to read your book 15 times, so I read it for the first time. And I have never read an entire book in my life, so congrats on being the one book I popped my cherry for. Well, alright then. Yeah, I know, lame. Well, it's like there's a quote that's on my website, and it says basically, the man who doesn't read any books has no advantage over the man who can't read them. And what Socrates said, basically, enlighten yourself by other men's writings, so you shall gain easily, whether people have labored hard for. It's like by me teaching this stuff that it just labored for decades to learn, to help myself in my own life. You don't have to go through multiple decades of your own life of trial and error in addition to trying to live a great life. You can just take the things you learn from me and then right away start getting the same kinds of results. Anyway, to the point. My wife said she was going to leave me a couple of years ago, and like a bitch, I begged her to stay, started counseling, and gave in to her every need. She did it again the following year, and I got pissed and took a different approach. I told her to leave, and I would drive the moving truck after she packed her shit. I mean, she's basically saying, hey, I'm not going to participate in our marriage anymore. Even though the guy was getting therapy and counseling, she's like, I'm out here. And he's like, oh yeah? Can I help you pack? I'll drive the fucking moving truck. He says, then the weirdest thing happened. She changed ever since that happened, and we are working on things and moving forward ever so slowly. Isn't that interesting? Women sometimes bluff to test. Recently, I found your videos and book, and I realized my problem. I have been a bitch our entire relationship of 10 years. As I have grabbed a tight hold on my nuts recently, I am absolutely amazed on how your techniques are the absolute way to make things happen in a relationship. It is truly amazing, and I realize now that marital counseling, opening up and sharing your feelings and all that bullshit is about 10 to 20% of the solution in a relationship. Yeah, if you're not acting like a man, if you're not in your masculine energy, if you don't understand that, you're going to have a hell of a time. It's going to be really hard. Almost impossible. Unless, of course, you came from, which most people don't, you came from a happy childhood where mom and dad were happy and in love, and they loved the kids, and they were affectionate, and they were there for them. And most people, I know I didn't grow up in an environment like that. I had to just figure that shit out on my own once I became an adult. She thinks counseling has helped. She doesn't realize yet, I just stopped being a bitch and suddenly things got better. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so finally, here's problem number one I can't seem to figure out, and I would like an opinion from you. Preferably one of your get off your ass and make things happen opinions. I'll do my best to light you up then. My wife seems to always control the amount of sex that we have, when and where. Before our problems, we averaged 2 times a week on designated days so that we were both happy. Well, that sounds really fun. Scheduling sex days? Where's this? How can you be spontaneous and fun? That's like saying I'm going to send you flowers every Friday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like there's no spontaneity. I mean, life, shit happens. Things happen. There was consistency from me and planned days so she wouldn't get distracted, and I was happy to get it that often. Since our blow-up a couple years ago, she has cut it down to 1 or 2 times on designated days. Well, that sounds like fun. Again, she obviously does not feel heard and does not feel understood. Hence, hang out, have fun, and hook up. And part of the having fun is getting her to talk and open up, so she feels like you hear her and you understand her. Watch the video that I did, How to Communicate with Women Effectively. That will really help you if you haven't watched it already. Because you got to get her to talk. If she talks and she feels like you care and you're actually listening to her, like I talk about in that video and I describe in my book, when a woman feels heard and understood, the legs open. And when she doesn't, the legs close. And so what this tells me is that she doesn't feel heard and understood in your relationship. So therefore, the legs close. You're not being a good enough listener, and you're not courting her properly. Sounds like you're just like, hey, I'm horny, I want some pussy, and you just figure you're just going to have sex with her. Well, that works when she feels heard and understood, because she's always going to let you have your way with her when she feels that way. But if she doesn't feel heard and understood, and you want to have sex, it's not going to happen. You're going to get rejected. Since putting your techniques in place, every now and then she will throw in a bonus date. Oh, goody. Because she likes my masculine ways now. Hallelujah. However, if I approach her to have sex on an out-of-plan date and time, she always blows me off and says, wait until Monday or whatever day is next. Again, hang out, have fun, and hook up. Don't just go to her and say, hey, I'm horny. Will you fuck me? Make a date. Make her feel special. Take her out. Plan something. Seduce her on the date. I mean, if you think back to it, when you guys first started dating, that's what you would do. You weren't living together. So you call her, you make a date. Usually the date's a couple days in advance. She's thinking about it. She's wondering what she's going to wear. She's wondering where you're going to take her. And then you show up, you take her out. You're fascinated by her. You're intrigued by her. You're asking her lots of questions, the kind of questions she enjoys answering, and you enjoy listening because you really adore her. In addition to the fact that you want to fuck her brains out, you actually like hanging out with her and having fun with her. She feels like you care about her because you took the time to plan a nice date. Some thought went into it, making dinner reservations, little things like that. That shows that you care. Just going over to her and expecting her just to drop her drawers and bend over, I mean, where's the fun? Where's the romance in it? Why do you think women read all those dirty romance novels? Because there's lots of sexual tension that gets built over time. You build sexual tension over the course of a date. And then the dessert is actually having sex at the end of a date. And so if you're taking the time to court and date your wife properly and take her out, make a date on the days that you don't have scheduled for sex and romance her. After hanging out for 4 or 5 hours together, and she spent 70 and 80% of the time talking and sharing her feelings, and you're going, what else, baby? Tell me more. Don't leave anything out. Really? Oh, really? And she feels heard. She feels understood. She feels like you care. You're not trying to solve her problems, but if you ever think that you want to give her advice and that's what she's looking for, you say, do you want me just to listen, or do you want my advice? Okay, what else, baby? Tell me more. And she keeps talking. Keeps opening up. She feels heard. She feels understood. And then when you come home, maybe you got some dessert. Maybe you got some strawberries and some whipped cream. Maybe you got some chocolate. You guys can get creative with that. You have a little glass of champagne or something. Or maybe you have some coffee or tea together and you sit close together on a couch. You start kissing. Kissing leads to heavy petting. The hands start to wander. She feels heard and understood. So she lets you touch her. And it just slowly escalates until her clothes are off and your clothes are off and you're deep inside her. I'm not talking sex talk all the time like I used to or being a perv anymore, which has helped, but this is something I just can't seem to take control. The courtship never ends. There's a chapter in my book that talks about that. And what this tells me is that you're not dating and courting your wife properly. You're just going to her and going, hey, I'm horny, I want some sex. How exciting is that? That's like the horny virgin teenager on spring break trying to get laid for the first time. He doesn't have any sensory acuity. He doesn't know what to do. She doesn't feel heard and understood, so why would she want to sleep with you? And whenever she wants it, I'm always down to fuck, so she has total control. I'm a dude crying out loud, and I can't say no to the crack cocaine called sex. Help me, Corey-1 Kenobi. You're my only hope. I've heard that so many times. But it's cool. I love Star Wars, so. Like I said, I can tell by reading this, your simple problem is that you're not dating and courting her. Seduction and having sex should come in the context of a date. Now, if you guys got scheduled days, that can be a cool thing too, then great, you keep those. But you still need to take her out and romance her. And if you do that, at least once a week, you take her out for a date that you've planned, everything in advance, and you just go out and have some fun together, and let her do most of the talking, and you ask questions, and she shares what's on her mind, her feelings, even if it's crap you don't want to listen to, or she's talking about her girlfriends, or maybe one of her coworkers, or something that happened with her sister or her mother or her neighbor or whatever. And you just listen. The legs will open. And then she'll always be down to fuck. Because if you do this properly, like I talk about in the book, you're not going to get rejected. It just won't happen. You'll be able to walk up to her and put your arms around her and just take your hands and just slowly move them towards down her pants and in her panties. By the time you get to her pussy, it's going to be all dripping wet. And that's because she feels heard and understood all the time. So she's always going to be down to fuck when you do that. So you treat her right, she'll treat you right. And you need to get serious about dating and courting her properly, because the courtship never ends. She's not a fucking sex robot, dude. Maybe in our lifetime, 20, 50 years from now, you'll be able to just go get yourself a sex robot. It'll be down to fuck whenever you want it, if that's what you're looking for. But in the meantime, if you want to have a real relationship, a real human interaction where you care about her and she cares about you, show that you care about her by taking her out and dating her. Show that she means something to you. And then by listening and doing the things I talked about, you won't have this problem anymore. It's a pretty simple approach, but again, you got to date and court her properly. At least once a week, you got to take her out for a date. Hang out, have fun, and hook up. And notice that the hook up part always comes at the end. Hang out, create a date, have fun. When you're on the date, let her do most of the talking. You ask the questions, and the hook up comes at the end. If you do that, you follow that formula, it'll be easy and effortless. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is to book a paid phone, Skype, or email coaching session. You can choose any of those options by going to my website, clicking the products tab at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions for booking whichever option works best for you. And I will talk to you soon.